Main Street Association, Mr. Tyner.
Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening. We have 3 things to hit up on right here. We've got July 14th is our next movie in the park. Those are going pretty good. And this one is called Mamma Mia. And again, starts at dusk. All of them start at dusk. So people are showing up pretty good on those. August 11th is our next one. It's Grease. And that'll be our final one. And then the last thing here is we're getting our year-end review on the 23rd of July. Our Main Street folks in Oklahoma City will be coming down, sitting through our committee meetings and things like that, and talking to us about how we're doing, how we're progressing the program, and we'll be rated on that to make sure that we're staying on track. And that'll come back to us in August. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Mitchell, how's things going at Solid Waste?
Another good trashy month, about 1,400 tons of trash delivered.
It's all relative to business.
Out of total landfill. We're surviving, like everybody, all the departments. The heat did get to a few of my guys last month, so I've changed the hours a little bit to see what's going to happen. So
very good. Very good.
Thank you, guys. I just wanted to come and say thank you. Our Art of Living event that Cherokee Nation worked with Cherokee Nation Enterprises in the current was a humongous success. And if you don't mind, I will give you this Arts and Economic Prosperity calculator for everybody. Just the portion that Cherokee Nation Enterprises, Cherokee Nation, and the current spent on it, running it through the calculator, it was about an $80,000 impact just for the day. We estimated about 2,500 people attended for the first year. At one point, there were 1,200 people in Norris Park listening to the music. Checked with Chief Mahaney, and there were no incidents whatsoever with the wine and beer tasting that the current did, and so we were very, very pleased. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Donna.
Welcome back. You're watching the meeting held on July 6, 2009. The meeting was called to order, all councilors were in attendance, and all items on the consent agenda were approved. Moving on to item number 5 on the agenda was a public hearing to discuss the rezoning of 426 Going Snake from R2 to R3. This item went before Planning and Zoning at the June 18th meeting. Due to several mistakes made in the state law requirements for rezoning, Planning and Zoning's decision was to republish the public notices with the correct information. Since no recommendation was made by Planning and Zoning, this item was tabled until the next meeting.
There was an error in publication of the notice, and it was not clear, it was wrong. Therefore, when we met, we agreed that it could not be held at 7 o'clock with the City Council. That's what was published. It should have been at 12 o'clock with Planning and Zoning. So that's the reason for the confusion, that it came out wrong, published, and both sides, I think, agreed with that. A few other comments. In the discussion, we had 3 options to meet the next regular meeting, which is coming up in 2 weeks. A special meeting, the earliest we could schedule that was July the 13th, or allow Mr. Davis, he has a privilege, not allowing him, but to go to direct to the council tonight. That would have gone without the P&Z recommendation, which you said. But from the Planning and Zoning, there was no objection to him coming tonight should he choose to be here. That was his privilege. The special meeting was called at the earliest day possible, which is Monday.
Next on the agenda, Rhonda Stoneberger sent in a request for the council to consider putting in crosswalks at the intersection of South Muskogee and the Bertha Parker bypass. This was taken into consideration, but no action was required. The city zoning ordinance was amended to include bed and breakfasts. A bed and breakfast is now defined under R3 multifamily usage. Nick Watrous was on the agenda to discuss the closing of Grand Avenue from Crafton to Lozier for a concert that would benefit Alzheimer's. The concert was scheduled for July 8th. This event was canceled.
Unfortunately, I've come to report today that this event is not going to be able to happen on July 8th because some of the artists that I had previously contacted are unable to make it, and so my funding is pretty much out the window. But I'd just like to come and say, just because I was on the agenda, make an appearance and say thank you for the council. I will be reappearing probably in a month or so. I'd like to reschedule this to have it in Norris Park or something like that and have the city's approval, and maybe some concessions or something like that vended by Coca-Cola. I'm talking with them right now in the Lowe's bottling plant to get that worked out.
Next, Extreme Internet went before the council to ask permission from the city to lease city-owned land for the purpose of constructing and operating a transmission tower for wireless internet. The city agreed to waive all fees in exchange for 10 virtual local area networks. Let's take a look.
Council, Mr. Tyner had approached our office of the city with a request to use city property, a couple of locations, for the purpose of erecting 2 towers, communications towers, to be used for wireless internet services in the community. I don't, all the technical issues, you have to have some sort of network of communicating towers. But we had two sites that were of particular interest from Mr. Tyner's perspective. One was at the end of, north end of Cedar Avenue, out by the old dump, and the water tower is at that location on city property. And the other was up on Moccasin Avenue, on what we call Water Tower Hill up there, just south of Choctaw and Katua, West Katua. We discussed the interest of the city in this particular situation. The service we thought was quite a valuable one we do not have for communications at the city level on a city-wide basis. And we recognize that the emergency services of the city of Tahlequah might benefit greatly from the ability to have wireless internet communications for our various units. So with the assistance of Mr. Goss, our IT manager, and relying upon him to ask the appropriate questions for these folks. If you've ever been in a discussion with IT people, you just kind of sit back on the side and trust that they're representing your interest, because most of the time we don't understand the technical jargon that's knocked around. But I'm comfortable at the end of the discussions that happened that we negotiated what we think is from the city's perspective a valuable return with regard to the provision of land for erecting those towers. The city requested 10 VLAN networks, is that a proper term? Of which I understand that doesn't mean you can just put 10 units on them, but that supports multiple units off of each of the networks. So it's very possible that we could eventually have the units in each of the patrol cars for the city, as well as our fire response vehicles. And again, we think that could be something that in this day and age, and with our need for advanced communications, could serve the city well.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.